and welcome to another episode of Mysteries with a History, where you'll be taken on a wild ride into the unknown, the strange, and the mysterious. Like you, I have questions, and like you, I want answers. And with each episode, together we will peel away the layers to look for the truth. Japan is a nation that has a long and gritty history of strange mysteries. Even today, once you leave the busy cities and get into the countryside, the legends, myth, and lore of ancient times is still very much alive. From UFOs to dragons, immortals, demons and gods, ghosts and monsters, Japan is one of the most mysterious nations of Asia. We have a lot to cover today. I am so excited for today's show. Let me bring in my co-host, Jimmy Church of Fade to Black Radio. Jimmy, happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday to you. How you doing?
Hey, I'm digging the beanie.
Man, I haven't taken this thing off, to be honest with you.
It's warm.
It's so nice. Thank you, Tina. Tina, it's just, it's like perfect. And I wore it. I've been wearing it every day, but I wore it yesterday. Well, every day this week, but yesterday. So all day. All day. So I'm done with the show. I'm upstairs getting ready, and I took it off, and my head was cold. I was like, man,
I know the feeling.
Yeah, it is just so nice, so nice. I think it also it allows for more blood flow, so my aged brain can work a little better too as well. I think
it's a thinking cap.
I think there's something to that. I really do. Hence, donning it for the show today, so I can think. What a great. We've been doing a lot of Asia lately, so I understand. I think where this is coming from, right? You're in that zone right now, and which is great. But can I say one thing about Japan?
Absolutely.
All right, I just want to say this: they know it's in their DNA. They know how to scare the crap out of themselves. That's what that's what they do. And if you really think about it, the Godzilla movies and the TV series from the 60s and stuff, who else? Throw on a rubber dinosaur outfit and walk through a city crushing buildings and the tank commanders down below shooting their things and yelling and screaming and people and all the way to, and I love that, but that's what they, so all the way through to like The Ring, right? And their concepts of imagery of the hair, the thing, these ghostly, scary image, they go out of their way to scare the crap out of themselves. And they scare, they do it to the rest of the world, but this is what they do. And it's based on culture.
Yeah.
This stuff goes back a long ways. And I don't know where we're going to start today. We have a lot of UFO stuff. By the way, maybe we can even jump first to Immortal Island. For a reason. There's 3 or 4 versions of that. Oh, by the way, Cat Island, which we're going to get to too as well. There's not one. There's not 2.
There's 11.
There's 11. There's 11 Cat Islands. I've got the top 3. We're going to go through but this stuff is part of their culture, and it goes back a long ways, and it's very interesting. We've talked about some of it over the last couple of weeks. So, where do you want to start today?
Well, first, NeuroStream, thank you so much for supporting the channel. He writes, I lived in Japan for a year and loved it. Excited for this episode. We'll be covering, as Jimmy had mentioned, some UFO stories and a lot of mythology because they have some crazy and very unique stories that you're not going to find anywhere else. Android, thank you so much as well. He says, let's talk about the shadow person on Christina's studio at 2:07 at last week's Strange News episode. Jimmy, ask Christina's opinion on it.
What's this?
So,
Hap-
last week on Weekly Strange News, there were comments in the live chat that someone saw, or like, I guess people saw this shadow person coming through, like a shadow being tapped.
Do you have
I'm like,
video?
"What?"
Do-
It's gonna be somewhere in that video, and then apparently there was, like, an internet glitch right after, and I don't
Well, what
know.
do you think? Did you go back and watch it?
No, I didn't have the time.
Okay. Well, it's just right there. Ask Christina's opinion on it.
I
So,
think my opinion is, if you're not hostile, visitors welcome.
yeah,
I'll bring the snacks.
that's the best way to deal with it. Okay. Can I tell you a little ghost story?
Is it related to Japan?
Yes.
Alright, then go for it.
So, 3 nights ago, downstairs, I have a hallway that goes to the back of the house. And at the end of that hallway are a couple of more rooms. Okay. That they're there. I just, whatever. And they're dark. But next to, outside of is a bathroom. And it's a full bath, shower and all. It's not like a small bathroom. And when I use it, I don't close the door, right? I'm home alone. Okay. You get what I'm saying. Just, whatever. There's no reason to close the door. But that hallway is long and it's dark. So I always turn on the hallway light.
You have
And I
to.
walked in, yeah, right. And so this is during the show, and so I'm in the commercial break, and I rush out, and I'm going down the hallway to go to the bathroom, but I don't turn on the light, the hallway
Mhm.
light. I turn the corner and go into the bathroom, and I turn on the light over my shoulder because there's a mirror in front of me. Now I can see out of the door, it's at an angle, into that back room. Okay. A shadow
No.
went right across through the room, and I see it in the mirror. And I swear on all that is holy, I jumped. Wah! Right? And I mean, I was like, man, and I didn't use it. I come out, I'm doing the show. I come out and I said, I will never, ever forget to turn on that hallway light again. I don't care if it's during the day. Blink, 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 blink. But yeah,
I feel you.
right over my shoulder, this thing. And oh man. So there you go. Now that's it. I'm just going to leave it there. Did I go in there? Did I do? No. I walked out. It's just everybody's welcome. Calm down. It's okay. And I had to come in here. All right, we're back. Fade to black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, and I'm sitting here going, Jesus, man. Oh my God. And my breath and my adrenaline. And I'm trying to act like, everything is normal. I forget who the guy
Right.
was and act like nothing is going on. And I'm just like this, but yeah, that's it. Hallway light on. Hallway light on.
I don't have a lot of fears. I have very few fears. People that watch this know it's drowning in cockroaches. But my only other fear is long dark hallways. And
They
I'm like not even joking with you. They're scary. We see them in so many horror movies. But then since we're talking about ghosts and scary stories, let's go ahead and start off with one of the myths that take place in
a
Japan,
mint,
that originate in Japan.
a breath mint.
Breath mint? No, a myth.
Oh, myth.
A myth.
Breath mints in Japan are scary too, as well. I hear.
Well, there's actually fun fact. There was this one that was recently released in Japan that's flavorless.
A flavorless breath mint.
Yes, sir. That's right. Just recently released too. But let's start off. Japan is a very interesting country when it comes to foods and things like that.
We're just
But
controlling the show. You know that, right?
Let's
Flavorless breath mints. Okay.
let's start off with a very scary myth that has a lot of movies attached to it and a lot of manga as well, and that is the slit-mouthed woman.
Okay. Now, I disclaimer here. Man, why do you see? This is what I'm talking about. Japan doesn't play. They don't play.
No.
They don't play. Okay, so all right, let's just move on. Who is the slit mouth woman?
So this legend kind of took place during the 7th century. So it's a very old story. And the legend commences with a stunning woman who is married to a samurai. But beware, because looks can be deceiving. She was very vain and one day went as far as cheating on her samurai husband. When he found out about the affair, he grew very enraged and slit her mouth from ear to ear, giving her a Glasgow smile, which we've seen when we spoke about the mysteries of California with Black Dahlia back in 1947. So, following this savage action, he asked, "Who will think you're pretty now?" And although the original tale is a cautionary one to remind people to stay faithful, the story takes a gruesome turn because in 2007, a coroner, which is an official who investigates violent, sudden, or suspicious deaths, found records of similar shocking cases during the time that the story took place, the original story, and that was in the nighttime. And the records showed that many children had died at night, rumoring sightings of a woman with with similar features were at the time and at the place of their death, giving a frightful, realistic twist to the legend. And the modern legend goes that a woman wearing a surgical mask or a mask of some sort would approach people, very specifically and usually children, at night, asking them, "Am I pretty?" And if the victim says no, she would slash their face with a pair of scissors, giving them a similar Glasgow smile. However, if they say yes, yes, you are beautiful, she will reveal her face and ask again. And if this time the victim says no, she will slash their face. But if they were to say yes yet again, she would follow them home and then brutally kill them. Many people believe that the only way to break this pattern is to confuse her by answering with either, "You're okay," or "So so," not providing a definite answer. And the confusion from these replies would buy the victim enough time to get away.
You have this. Remember a couple of weeks ago we had the that gobbler monster dropping out of trees,
Oh,
right?
yes, the Yarmayahu.
Yeah. I mean, they just take it to another level. Right. And now with this, and you're right about the Black Dahlia reference, because you cannot help but think of the Black Dahlia. And the Black Dahlia here in LA, everybody knows the story. And I heard it when I first moved here when I was a kid. And when you go and you look at those images of that was real, right? This was a real tragic murder that happened here in Los Angeles with the disfiguring of her face and her body and everything being cut apart. That being said, the images that are in my head are still there from the Black Dahlia, and when I see this, I'm emotionally affected by this, man. I'm traumatized, and that's another reason why. I mean, these kinds of stories and myths and ghost stories do scare the crap out of you, and they affect you. But number two, it follows me everywhere, like the Joker, right,
Yep,
in
great
Batman.
example.
And that because of what the Black Dahlia did to me, those were images, right? Those are photographs, and you go and you see that, and you think about her and her life and everything else, and then you jump to this in Japan. I'm immediately taken, right, there. It affects me. It scares me. And then the Joker. as great of a role, Academy Away, the whole thing that was behind that. Yes, but the images of it made the movie very difficult for me to watch. Like looking at this picture here, it's like this scariest image that
And
that
this one is more PG. If you
yeah,
type it into Google, you're gonna find some pretty
yeah.
horrific looking photos, but this is a family-friendly channel, so we're not gonna be sharing those scary images. Michael says, and thank you so much, Michael. He says, "I really love you guys. You get better and better each week. Do you know what a Glasgow smile means?"
No,
And
tell us, Michael, or do you know, Christina?
I do know.
Okay,
I
tell
do
me.
know. I also Googled it just to make sure
I'm
that I don't make a fool out of myself.
gonna Google it right now.
But it is a wound caused by making a cut from the corner of a victim's mouth up to the ear, leaving a scar in the shape of a smile.
I'm looking at. Oh man, look at all of these images.
Yeah.
Oh man, who knew? I can't look at this stuff. Really?
Then close the tab. But yeah, this story is a very interesting and scary myth slash with a little bit of truth behind it. And there's quite a few others that we'll be covering today that will put shivers down your spine. But one thing that I
Wow.
would like to touch on, and we did mention this in the Mysteries of Asia 2 weeks ago. Was it 2 weeks ago?
Yeah,
A
yeah,
while back.
2 weeks.
And the first known official investigation into a possible alien UFO presence was actually carried out in Japan in 1235. So, for those that didn't watch that episode, don't worry. We're going to briefly go over it today as well. I'm going to share my screen here as a visual aid so I can read you what I'm about to read you. So, it states here, one night, a high officer named General Ume and his army were settling down in their camp when they spotted mysterious lights in the sky. The general and his troops watched in astonishment as these lights performed amazing movements, such as circling endlessly and flying in loops. Baffled by the bizarre aerial display, the general ordered a scientific investigation. This took place in 1235, guys, and to understand what was being witnessed. The explanation that the general's scientists gave him and his army was that the whole thing was completely natural because it was only the wind making the stars sway.
Yeah, right. Does it remind you of excuses that we get in reporting today,
It
covering
does
phenomena?
sound oddly familiar, Jimmy.
It's yes, like, and this is 1235.
Right.
1235. And now here's let me give you a little bit of my take on this. Because this was let's just go with the way it has been documented that this is the first official investigation, right? First official that's heavy news. This is 1235 of the UFO sighting. Um, at night, it was General Yorutsumi and his army. They're camping. They're camping. They got tents. They got campfires. They're cooking. They're doing what armies do. And they're looking up in the heavens, just checking out the night sky. Remember, it's an army. And everything went berserko. So what they thought were stars in the sky, or whatever, lights in the sky at that time, assuming that they were stars, started to move sideways, up and down. They were running in circles, and then they described them, which you just mentioned, as looping. So you have this, right? Traveling in circles, and you've got zig, and then you've got looping going on now. What naturally occurs, I have never seen or heard any reports of that kind of natural phenomena ever. fireflies, maybe, right? Bugs, we're talking about in the skies. The general ordered that full-scale scientific investigation. That's a quote from the general. And the report was submitted, and they just tried to, this is my opinion, but it's very similar to what happens today. The report was written to calm everybody down because everybody was freaking out. And if you're going to turn around and go, we can't explain it, I don't know. It's God. It's this. It's, it's aliens from Mars. That's going to freak everybody out. So what do you do? Right? What do? You lie. You lie. It's natural. It's just the weather. It's just the earth. It's what happens here. And that's how they handled it in 1235 all the way to 2023.
Here we are.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. But it is amazing that the first official UFO investigation took place in Japan. Keep in mind that in Japan and in China, these cultures are super meticulous when it comes to taking down notes, keeping details of events compared to other cultures during that time period. They wrote everything down. There was no exception. And I'm very grateful that they went ahead and wrote this story down as well for people like us to follow.
But I've got more.
Tell us.
Got more. Because they wrote everything down. And so, you go to 1235, right? Well, let's go a couple of years later, 1271. A famous priest, Nichiren, was about to be headed at Tatsunochi, a full moon, skinny and bright. This is how he described it. He said the officials panicked and the execution was not carried out. All right, so now let's. This is direct. The wording as it was noted in the historical record. So now let's take this apart again, right? He was about to be beheaded in Kamakura when, this is how it's worded and translated, when there appeared in the sky an object like a full moon. An object like a full moon. It wasn't the moon. It wasn't the full moon. It was an object like the full moon. Very interesting. And this is 1271. They called it shiny, reflective, right? Shiny and bright. And it was so nuts that the priest, Nichiren, got off. That's right. The execution didn't happen. And this, I did my Fader fact today. Which is the word disaster. It comes from ancient Greece. It's a Greek word, disaster, which means bad star. So what the Greeks, they were into astronomy, and they would use astronomy and astronomy to predict when to do something, when to go to war, when to, natural disasters, earthquakes. They did all of this stuff with that, and that's where the word disaster comes from. It comes from bad star. So when they saw a bad star, disaster, right? And so when things like this appeared in the sky, like the green comet, right, that is right now passing Earth, it's a moment where people can back up and use it, or not only use it to warn people with, like the ancient Greeks did, but also to take heed. And here, something appeared in the sky. That's it. You're not getting executed. And it's fascinating. Then we have in 1361, think about this now, that's a long time ago, a flying object described as being shaped like a drum. All right? About 20 feet in diameter. Emerged from the inland sea off of the western Japanese coast. That was in 1361, reported in the historical record. 1458, an object as bright as the full moon, again, followed by curious signs, was seen in the night sky. 1468, 10 years later. Yeah, look at that.
Especially
Yeah.
visual aid for
Yeah.
those that are watching this on YouTube.
1468, a dark object made a sound like a wheel. It flew from Mount Kasog to the west at midnight. What are you seeing in the sky? 1400, right? 1606, Nijo Castle. A whirling ball of fire was seen hovering over the castle in 1606. In 1749, for 4 days, 3 round objects were seen in the skies over Tokyo. Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
usually when you type in UFOs in Japan, UFO stories in Japan, you're going to get the Utsuro Bune, right? The one that took place in 1803. And then it kind of stops there. But I am so happy you brought the goods for today's show, covering all these other UFO sightings.
I left off a ton of stuff, but okay, so let's stay with UFOs for a minute since we're here. And let's talk about Mamoru Sato, and he's a retired general. Now I've got my version of Sato here, but tell us about who he is.
So he's a retired lieutenant general of the Air Self-Defense Force, also known as the Air Force, and has written a book filled with UFO sightings from his colleagues and subordinates called A True Record: UFOs the Self-Defense Force pilots encountered closely. And there he writes many accounts that his colleagues had witnessed, one of them taking place in 1968, where he interviewed someone from the Maritime Self Defense Force, or the Navy. So, a retired rear admiral was the captain of an anti submarine patrol plane near Tokyo. When his plane was flying over the Pacific Ocean, his radar captured an object right in front of him, and the object made a super rapid approach. As his plane was in the clouds, he could not actually see the object with his naked eye, but he could see it on radar. How many times have we heard that, Jimmy? Countless times.
Way too much. And now,
Well,
let me just real quick. I just had Leslie Kane on the show, and her book, which is about militaries in general, so forth, go on the record. And we have that focus today, and here in the United States. And I get that, but the point needs to be made that we aren't the only military experiencing this. It's a global phenomenon, and Japan has really had their share of UFO encounters with their military, which is a peacekeeping military. Right after World War II, they kind of it's a defensive military, which should be also noted here. But I want you to continue, because the report and the courage that Sato had to publish this book and how in depth it was, it's just a phenomenal read.
it is. And it's not one that I've read personally. I would love to get my hands on it. I was only able to get certain summaries of very specific articles, chapters, excuse me. There was an article that had those chapters. But
I have it.
oh my gosh.
I have the chapters.
Well, to continue with this story by this retired rear admiral, he stated that he made a sharp left turn because he was in fear that he was going to collide with this UFO, but there was no collision. And he didn't even report this UFO sighting because his plane didn't collide with any object. It wasn't in trouble. So he didn't have this need to report this sighting, which in the past, and even in present day, that's a lot of pilots' mentality. that if they're not actually in danger, if there isn't any wreckage, they're not going to report the encounters that they had, which makes the data that we attempt to collect sparse. But now things are changing. More pilots are coming out and telling their stories, which is incredibly important. But this took place back in 1968, right over Japan. And as you stated, Jimmy, no country is an exception when it comes to pilots having UFO sightings while in the air.
I'm sorry, I muted myself. Muted myself. Sorry about that. Yes. And so here are the chapters in the book that you had just referenced. And I actually have them here because of how interesting these chapters are. And I made note of it. I'm glad that you brought this up because chapter 1, remember, this is a retired lieutenant general from the Japanese Defense Forces. Writing a book about military encounters of the Japanese military with UFOs. So here's the chapter list in the book. It's the first 7 chapters. Chapter 1, a major who was loved by UFOs. Yeah, I'm going to leave that right there. Chapter 2, UFOs aim at bases in the Tohoku region. All right. Now I've got some more on that. Chapter 3, pilots who were saved by aliens. Right? Okay. I love that. Chapter 4, the UFO incident file. Chapter 5, history of unidentified flying objects. Chapter 6, UFOs and nuclear installations. Chapter 7, UFOs, spiritual world, and Yukayo Mishima. And I could spend some more time on that and on the subject, but I want to make note of this because he says, Sato says that one day in 1986, when he was the head of the public relations section in the Air Staff office in Tokyo, a young reporter visited. The reporter believed, with paperwork, right? The reporter believed that an F-4 Phantom fighter of the Air Defense Force had been shot down by a UFO near Hayakuri Air Base in the Ibaraki Prefecture near Tokyo on May 1st, 1973. Now, without getting into specifics on this, is some of the stuff that is included in this book, and we don't hear, about this stuff around the world. And the other part, again, the book is very complete. The names of the pilots are there, both of them. How the incident occurred, who was involved, how these bases were put on alert. All over Japan, by the way. It's not just Tokyo or one specific base. They've had the same interactions over nuclear facilities, over nuclear stuff that in Japan, because of, Nagasaki and Hiroshima, the word nuclear is, it carries so much weight in Japan. And so to introduce nuclear power and facilities into Japan was a very big deal and a concern, and understandably so, for countless reasons. And then to turn around and have an ET and UFO component over these facilities is, again, I understand it. We have it here, and we have our own reasons for Malmstrom and how we always. What's the? I'm just going to run this clean. The message that gets repeated over and over again from ETs and people that have made contact is, man, you got to fix your nuclear situation. You guys this is something that we are very concerned about this. You have the potential of blowing up this beautiful planet and destroying the human race. So be very, very careful. Well, who is really aware of that? Japan. Japan is really aware of that. And to turn around and have this, and then to have a retired general from the Japanese Defense Forces put it all in a book, it's absolutely remarkable, Christina. I mean, just remarkable.
For those that are interested in getting the book, it is called A True Record UFOs the Self Defense Force Pilots Encountered Closely. And like many others that are interested, I'm going to get the book too, because it sounds really darn good from the chapters that I got a summary of. I want to read it all.
It's very complete and very detailed.
I'm in. Well,
a mint? What is
I'm
it?
in.
Oh,
I'm in.
I thought you said I'm a mint.
I don't know what's with you and mints today, but no, that's not what I said. What I was gonna say though was let's talk about Cat Island,
We
Jimmy.
got to. We got to go.
We
Cat
have
Island.
to talk about Cat Island
We got
because
to go. Cat
cats have my heart. They can hurt me and scratch me, and I'll still love them wholeheartedly.
I was. Did you know that I went to Egypt?
You did?
Yeah, I did. I went to Egypt, and I'm at the first hotel, which is over the Cairo Zoo. Literally, I'm on like the 30th floor, and way up high. From my balcony, I'm looking at the zoo. I can hear the lions. It's the zoo right across the street. Amazing. So I'm looking from a great height. I'm like, what is all that stuff walking around? I get out my camera, right? My cell phone. I start taking pictures. I zoom in. Cats. Thousands of cats. I mean, herds of cats. So that over on this building, it was the coolest thing ever, right? It was Cat Island. There was this building with the flamingos and a pond, and it was full of flamingos. But next to it was this building. On the roof of the building, thousands of cats looking at the flamingos. And I'm watching the cats. So you're going around to the pyramids and these temple sites, and you're going all over Egypt, but cats everywhere. Cats.
If I ever go to Japan, that'll be one of my very first stops. Cat Island.
I would do it.
And pet every single cat. I would not leave the island until I've petted every single cat.
Now, so when you look up Cat Island, everybody, and I suggest that you do, look up Cat Island, Japan. And before you think there is, a cat island, which is great, right? No. There are cat islands, plural, and they are all over the place. But tell us about the main one, Ashima.
Well, there's even a rabbit island.
Yeah,
we're just gonna touch on that. Also a rabbit island for those that like rabbits to have as pets. But actually, I was gonna talk about the island Tashirojima.
Okay, now see, but okay. You got that's my number 2.
Well, it's my number 1, so we're going to start there.
Okay.
So this destination is exactly how it sounds. An island filled with cats, guys. Like, my dream come true. So, in fact, as we had mentioned a little bit earlier, there's around 11 cat islands in total, and each island contains hundreds of stray cats, which are cared for by the locals and adored by the tourists who flock to see them. This particular island has a ratio of 4 cats to every 1 human.
That's right.
All right, so that is intense right there.
That's bleeping cool.
Oh yeah, I see what you did there.
Really
so
cool.
Originally, the cats were used as a form of pest control, and today they are now the star attraction. There's a daily ferry that drops cat lovers off at either a small village in the north or Nitoda port to the south. Both areas can be accessed on easy to follow walking trails, and most of the island's cat population reside around Nidota port. So what's really cool about this place is that it's a huge tourist attraction. So of course you got to have some cabins, like some places to stay the night, right? Well,
awesome.
you're not just getting a hotel. No, you're getting a cat-shaped lodge.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love it. I love it. I don't
And
understand cats. I don't understand them. They're adorable and they're great to look at and they're perfect. I have not figured them out.
well, for those that are interested, to get a ferry from Ishinomaki to Tashiryojima Island, it only costs about $11, like United States dollars, right? To get from there for there one way. And if you want to stay the night, you can bring several other people with you, and it's $70 a night. That has a kitchen and a bathroom as well. Um, Michael says cat ate all the rats. That's why there's no rats there,
Yeah,
right?
there's
And
no rats. There is no mouse issue on
no,
any of these islands for sure.
and Charles, thank you so much for supporting the channel and the RV fund. He writes meow. And you know what? That only seems appropriate.
Totally, totally. Cats are awesome. So funny. Yeah. See, that's the thing. You can't say anything about cats or dogs in any way because you will get jumped on. And I get that. But what I remember I was like 10, Christina. I was 10, sitting around with my friends. I might have been 14, whatever. But I said, you know what? Cats are aliens. Cats were here before humans. They invented us to take care of them. Look at them. They just lay around, cleaning. They get fed. They look amazing. They're perfect, right? They've got it all figured out. They really do. And they don't give a crap. They don't. They really don't. We beg for their love. Right?
Oh my gosh.
We
Yes.
beg and we don't get it.
Yep. I used to have this one cat and he would always run away from me. And I'm like, come back, let me love you. And it would just keep running. And I'm like,
Don't give a crap. They know you're going to chase. They know your love's not going to end. It's not. It's just the way to. So funny. So, but my number one. I've got three. So my number one cat island, Ashima, and its nickname has always been a cat island. Now there's only 15 residents on the entire island. That's it. It's not a very big island.
let's make it 16.
Yeah, right. But there's like 150 cats,
Jeez.
right? And so that's a 10 to 15 to 1 ratio on that island. And again, tourist destination, and people head out there. The easiest island to get to, Tashirojima and Oshima, that's a trip you have to plan. You have to plan the trip. The Enoshima Island is easy to get to. It's right off of the coast of Japan near Tokyo. It's very small. It's southwest of Tokyo, and it is also the closest island to Tokyo. So it's easy to get to.
There you go.
Covered in cats.
I mean, what could be better? But while we're on the conversation of cats, there's even things that are classified as cat witches or even shapeshifters while we're on the conversation about this. I'm going to share my screen here as a visual aid. And unsurprisingly, cats are tied to witches even in Japan. Centuries ago, it was a common belief that young women should not visit temples after the sun went down. The story goes that they would be approached by a kindly old woman who would lure the girl home, and then this woman would turn into its natural form of a cat and devour the girl. So it was thought that cats hang around temples and they're actually witches in hiding, waiting for a night to pounce.
Have you seen Cats,
No,
the movie?
no, I haven't. I heard really bad reviews, so I never watched it.
What about the Broadway musical?
I'm not into Broadway.
You're not. It was a huge hit, and everybody was a cat. on stage, right? And now I never watched it. Don't worry, everybody. I haven't seen it. What about cat people? Did you see that?
No, haven't seen that one either, but
Oh, you got to see
because
cat
I
people.
no,
Cat
see,
people.
I like regular cats, not like watching, like, cat videos. Actually, Cats and Dogs, great movie, by the way. But
You don't watch cat videos?
no, I said I watch cat videos, but
Oh,
never
okay.
mind. I do, I
I
love
watch
cat
cat
videos.
videos. I
But
have.
we're talking about Japan here today, Jimmy. Japan, not about cats. We can do a whole show on cats, and I'd be fully for it, but no, we're talking about Japan. So, moving on to our next case, what do you wanna cover?
Oh, I thought you were taking control of the show.
I'm gonna let you pick.
Okay, let's go with the freaky. Can we go with the freaky?
What is it?
Let's go with the haunted doll of Hokkaido. Can we do the haunted doll of Hokkaido?
Yes, take it away.
Creepy doll, creepy Japanese doll, residing at a temple in Iwamizawa Temple that is allegedly growing human hair. Now, can we just stop right there for a second and just enjoy what I just said? Right?
There is nothing to enjoy in that one sentence that you mentioned.
Sink in, man. Let that sink in. There are various legends regarding this, but most popular one speaks of a traditional Japanese doll brought by Ikichi Suzuki, a 17-year-old boy from Hokkaido who bought it for his little sister back in 1918. It is said that the 3-year-old girl called Kikuku loved the doll very much, took it everywhere with her, and slept with it every night. But as often the case in these creepy legends, young Kikuko died one day after catching a cold. And that's when things started to get a little bit bonkers. That's right. So the girl's family, Cristina, kept the doll. Isn't that rule 101 when you're doing this stuff is you don't keep the doll, right? Isn't that's top of the list. But they decided to keep the doll because she loved it so much and she was attached to it. So what did they do? They made mistake number 2 of the rules. They build a shrine in the family home for the doll. Yeah. So they named it Okiku after their lost daughter and started breaking rule number 3. They started praying to the doll. At one point, they noticed something very unusual. The doll, which had an akapa hairstyle, which is cropped, like this beanie, right? It had a cropped,
A bob cut, yeah.
a bob cut, like this beanie, right? And they started looking at it and they said, wait a minute, the hair's longer. And look at the doll today. So what do you make? Look at that. So how is it possible? I want your thoughts on this. Is it real human hair that is placed on the doll that is somehow still growing? Is that possible, or is there something more supernatural? Is there a scientific explanation to this? Look at that shrine. Would
So
you ever?
people have made rumors that there have been tests on the hair. That information has not been made public, therefore it's
Mhm,
still in that rumor category.
mhm.
But the family that originally harbored this doll believed that the doll was possessed by the restless spirit of their deceased daughter. So they took really good care of it until they finally moved and they gave this doll to Maninji Temple, so where the doll now remains. And it slowly started growing human hair, where it was originally a bob cut, and now the hair is down to its knees. The priests of that temple have mentioned that they have cut the doll's hair several times.
Yeah.
And from my understanding, priests don't lie, and they wouldn't lie about something like this.
That's where this story for me, Christina, gets really, really creepy. We
Well,
put a lot of trust, right, into priests, and to they're supposed to have a moral compass that is generally, correct,
that's
right?
right.
Okay, all right. And so when they say that they're cutting the hair and it keeps growing back, what do we do with that? Well,
Well,
we
it
kind
gets
of
even
leave it.
Well, it gets even weirder. The priests claim to have nightmares of this doll visiting in their dreams. And there's even visitors who have stated that the doll's mouth is slowly moving and sprouting baby teeth. When you see this doll, you're not supposed to take photos, so finding images of the shrine of the doll are very rare. There's only like less than a handful that you can find. But it's a scary story, and human hair or not, the fact that priests are stating, "We have to cut it every once in a while, and yes, this doll invades my dreams." Um, that's
They
pretty
cut the hair
scary.
back into the style it was in the first place, but the hair grows back. Yeah. Man. Japanese just got it. They got it down to a science when it comes to freaking you out.
Well, would you visit this temple to see the doll?
No. Yeah, I know you would. You'd be there, before they open. Anybody in there? You would do that. Not me. I'm okay with that. Every time I didn't stop doing it because I was freaking myself out. But I did a lot of shows on Fade to Black about haunted dolls and haunted objects, and there are quite a few around the United States.
There are.
And I've seen some documentaries, and there's this doll island down in Mexico that is absolutely insane, and to go and see that, and I'm just not down with it. I'm not down with it. Dolls have always freaked me out, and I'm okay with GI Joes, right? Barbie, GI Joe, but anything that's like a baby doll thing. No, I'm not into it. No, haunted or not, I'm just not into it.
They've gotten a really bad rap over the last decade, 2
Did you have
decades or so.
did you have baby dolls as a little?
No, no, I never really played with dolls or too many toys. I was more of a reader growing up. I was a total nerd, like just a dweeb.
Mhm.
I didn't have toys, but just dolls in general, they're freaky.
My daughters did not. They did the Barbies. They did Brats. Do you remember Brats? Okay,
Yes.
Brats, which are the miniature. They're like this big, right? And so here was the thing with Brats. Everything was really tiny. If you think Barbie shoes are tiny, or Barbie purse is tiny, or Barbie dream house is tiny, right? Go to the Bratz level where the shoes are that big, right?
Go to the Polly Pocket
Yeah,
level. Those
right.
are like the dolls already this big to start with, but but let's continue with Japan and the wild stories that are there. This next one is in regards to a yokai, which many people would define as a demon, but it's a little bit more intense than that. And one specific yokai that I would like to talk about is the Jorogumo. Now, I have talked about this one before when Jimmy was in Egypt. And for those that haven't watched Unexplained Mysteries Part 2, you're in for a treat because this one is 10 out of 10 scary. All right, I'm gonna share an image here. This is a PG image too. There's some much scarier ones.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah. You did go PG because
Yeah.
you can't unsee the images on the net of
No.
it's insane.
No, you
The
cannot.
Yokai, this is going to another level of frightening. And look at the hair. The body is made of hair.
Mm. So,
And
of the many yokai in Japanese mythology, the Jorogumo is one of the most famous of them all. And it's a deadly spider woman who has the ability to both enchant and bring great misery upon those who have to deal with it. It is one of a large number of yokai, which are supernatural spirit entities that can be both benevolent and malevolent in nature, but usually dealing with attractiveness and calamity. Mark Tasaka, thank you so much. It says, "Hi, Christina and Jimmy. Happy to catch your live stream. Keep up the excellent work." Thank you. Jimmy, go ahead and say his last name, please.
Tasaka.
Rock
As
on.
we're doing a show about Japan, I got to say Tasaka.
So here is one story that was recorded in Things That Ought to Be Pondered Even in Urgent Times. And it describes a young samurai who encounters a beautiful young woman carrying a child in her arms. The woman, who was a stranger to the man, pointed at the samurai and tells the child, "Him, there, surely, is your father. Go forth and hug him." However, the samurai realizes the woman is not what she seems, and he attacks her, slashing her with his blade, whereupon she escapes to the attic of a house. The next morning, in the attic, all they find is the corpse of a giant Juro spider about 2 feet long, along with bodies of the victims it had already murdered and eaten.
Look at that. I mean, that's just crazy town. The Japanese, I'm just going to repeat myself. They've got it figured out. They know how to get inside your head.
They're
They,
very creative and imaginative.
oh man. And I'm looking at. Let me get this up here too as well. There's a whole collection of what I'm about to show you of artists that create Yokai. And but let me pull this up here and just hang out for a second. Let me see. Here we go. Sorry about this, everybody, but it's just the way we have to do things here
When
because
it's live, there's
it
there
this
there is no snipping and cutting and editing, which is sometimes heartbreaking, but we gotta make do with what we got.
yeah. And so here we go. And before I do that, let me bring this up. Okay. Now, this is a style that you can find on the net. All right. But here's a Yokai. And so when you go and if you look at this really closely and you see other things going on with this, but look at the imagery here. And there are artists all over Japan that draw and render yokai all the time. It's just amazing artwork to go and look at. So just go and browse through it. It's amazing artwork. But I mean, that's frightening. That's a mouth within a mouth within a mouth within a mouth. That's nuts.
As Brown Dwarf said, it's gnarly, and I could not agree more.
It's gnarly. And there's lots of images like that. And if you go the Spider Woman and you look at different images of that, I'm looking at some right now, and
They're
they're just
brutal.
they're and amazing. I mean, just really really good artwork. Now, while we're on this, can we do the vampire sea serpent?
Oh my gosh, yes. This was a new one to me, and I was like, "This is kind of awesome." Let's cover it. So tell us, Jimmy.
No, I want you to. I'm bringing up images. Okay, well,
Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and read it. The Nure Una are sea serpents who haunt shores and rivers looking for humans to eat. They are most commonly found on the shores of the island of Kyushu, but there are stories of these sea serpents that can be seen on other parts of Japan. And there are two variations of this yokai. one without arms, which resembles an enormous sea serpent with a woman's head, and one with human like arms. Aside from these differences, the two look and act in exactly the same manner. Their faces are believed to be hideous and portray serpent like features, such as a forked tongue. They have long black hair, which sticks to their dripping bodies, and their name comes from the fact that they always appear soaking wet. While physically much stronger than a human, these serpent creatures prefer not to rely on brute force, but to use trickery to catch their prey. And they most often appear near the water, on the coast, or by a riverbank. These sea serpents magically disguise themselves as a distressed woman carrying a bundled up baby. They cry out for help from fishers, sailors, and anyone passing by. When the prey approaches the fishermen, this sea serpent will plead with their victim to hold her baby for just a moment so that she can rest. If he agrees and takes the bundle, the baby becomes heavier than a boulder. The victim is unable to move, and the sea serpent is then free to attack her helpless victim, feeding by draining his blood with her long tongue. The moral of the story is don't help anybody.
They, they always play the baby card.
Every time. Just
They always play the baby card. That's how you draw them in. That's how you draw them in. And yeah, and look at this. Look at this picture. But here's let me just say one thing before we move on when it comes to this. I have, just like everybody else, I have noticed the uptick in strange sea creatures that are washing up on shores of beaches, right, around the world, and you get the videos and you get the images and the photographs, and it's just going, more and more strange stuff is appearing. And just when you think that we got a grip on things, that we understand nature, we know what's going on, we think we know it all, and then these so when you see the sea serpent, right, with a woman's head and a tongue, and you're looking at some of the stuff washing up on the beach, I know what they were seeing that stuff. Have you seen these fish with human faces and human teeth, and the image and the look and what is washing up? And so I think this stuff is based in reality. I think it's based in fact. Do I believe that there are sea serpent with female heads with long tongues, going around with babies and luring in fishermen and then sucking out their blood and babies turning into 50 pounds? Not necessarily. It's possible. But the images, we're seeing this stuff wash up on shore right now. And I could understand people thinking things a couple of 100 years ago when they saw the same stuff washing up on shore.
It's a very scary story, to be honest with you. And the Japanese, they are good. They are good at giving you nightmares. And this is one that makes you question, do I really need to go fishing today? Do I really need to go to the ocean or to a lake to catch some food? Or shall I just stay home? And it
Look at
seems like
There's the post you've been waiting for. I have 2 RV dealerships, and I'd love to help you out. There
thanks,
you go.
Charles.
There it is. There it is. That's a good salesman right there. He owns 2 dealerships, and he's going to buy you as a customer for $9.99. There you go. Well done. Well played. Thank you, Charles.
Thank you, Charles. And Ginger as well. Find anything good amongst the Shadowlands? What are you doing? Is that where you found this stuff? No, that was you. And just we're having a battle on showing chats. Ginger, thank you so much. I haven't fully looked at all of the things regarding Shadowlands, but this information was not from there for today. At least on my side. I don't know about Jimmy.
No, I don't know what Shadowlands is. What's Shadowlands?
Ginger can explain that in the live chat.
Oh, okay. In the live chat.
Yeah, there you go.
Back to
So
Japan.
back to Japan. We're making a lot of tangents today, but it's okay because they're all somewhat kind of relevant-ish. But and I knew someone was gonna bring it up, and it was Chris James talking about, "Are you gonna talk about Utsuro Bune?" And I told Jimmy backstage, and I said, "We've covered it so many times that if we do not cover it today, someone is gonna make a comment on it."
It's the best
Um,
story ever. It's the
it
best.
is the best story ever, and you simply cannot talk about Japan without talking about Utsuro Bune. As I had mentioned, we've covered it quite a few times on this channel. Very specifically, the latest time was the Mysteries of Asia. We talked about it, so we'll just kind of touch on this case today. But it took place February 22nd, 1803, where there was this rice pit shaped UFO that was on the ocean. It gets to shore. The fishermen were very confused on what they were seeing, and this very pale woman with red hair and red eyebrows came out holding a box in her hands.
It's the best story ever. You've got Betty and Barney Hill. You've got Roswell. You've got Utsuro Bune. It's like right up there. Cristina, when I first heard about this case, I'm talking about 30 years ago or longer, and I had even seen it in a documentary where they discussed everything and showed some imagery like what you're showing here. Stop. Keep this up, by the way. This is very important because this is lifted directly from the historical record. The craft. So when you go and you discuss the the history of Japan and the way that it is discussed culturally, if they descended from UFOs, right? They're the ET came to this earth, crafts appeared, boom, and that's where the Japanese people came from. And then you go to this is 1803. This craft that you're looking at, the bottom metal, this is 1803. All right. There were no steel ships out there at this point. So you had that. So the bottom is made from metal. The top of it, the brown section that you're looking here, has been described as like polished rosewood. Okay. But here's the interesting part: the windows were crystals and described as crystal clear. They never described it as glass. Right? They've used other words for it and not glass. And those were covered with bars, metal bars. And you could see it here in this drawing. So they go, the fisherman, she's got a box, which is she's seen here. She had red hair. She spoke in a language that they didn't understand. She rises out of the water in this craft, freaks everybody out. They take her back to the village thinking that she needs help. They don't understand what's going on. The fishermen go back and check out her ship, her craft, whatever you want to call it. They go inside, and on the walls, it says 1803. It's so strange. On the walls were a language that they didn't understand, written all over the walls. And you know how this ended, right?
They pushed her back. They're like, "No, you are a demon, you are a yokai. We are not dealing with you right now."
Yeah. They kicked her to the curb. They kicked her to the curb. They put her in her ship and pushed it out. they rescue her and then put her back on the boat or whatever it is and pushed her back out to sea.
She looked so foreign. She wasn't speaking the language, right? Japanese. And they were like, no, we are not going to be having a bad omen today. Thank you very much. But there were rumors about what was in her hands in that box. And some of the stories state that it could have been a head of her lover, her deceased lover. It could have been a secret piece of tech that we don't know about, but obviously no one has the answers. No one was able to communicate with her. All they could write in these books that were only written a few years after this encounter were what the UFO looked like, the odd looking hieroglyphs, the material, when I mean material, I mean very unique material that they've never seen before, including not only the outside of this UFO, the inside, but even the material that she was wearing as well. It was very unique to them. And that's one of the reasons to why this story is it's really high up there when you're going to talk about a UFO sighting. This one is easily in the top 10.
Yeah, I had what I had read. What was in the box? 42.
42
right.
what?
No, that 42. The secret of the universe was there, and all of the secrets of Atlantis were in that box. But no, they had 42. They had the answer to everything, and they pushed her out to sea. They could have had a different life. They could have gone to the restaurant at the edge of the universe, but instead they just pushed her out to sea.
Dang. They missed an opportunity right there.
Yep. See, everybody else understands 42. You got to go do your own research. That's it.
Honestly, originally, I thought you were making a SpongeBob reference.
No.
What's funnier than 24? 25. But no, my dyslexia hit it, and I got 24 and 42 backwards.
Well played. 25. That's pretty good. Okay, so let's go with the Immortals.
Oh, the Immortal Island. So for those that want to live forever.
Now, wait. See, that's what you think.
See, that's what the title implies. Of course,
Yes,
that's not the case.
Well, no. That is the case. But just like Cat Island, there's more than one Immortal Island. So which version of Immortal Island do you choose to discuss? I can go either way.
I am going to share my screen here. So take us to the one that you want to talk about while I pull this up.
No, because I'm going. Yeah, see, this is where you're going. I'm going to go one better. I'm going 25.
Trying to one up me?
I'm going 20
on my show. Come on.
On this island, Okinawa, and it's a section of that island. The average lifespan. Check this out, though. And when every year this story comes out in the media, Cristina, and as well it should. But this has been discussed for a very long time. But it's fascinating, and the rest of the world just doesn't pay attention to this, and I don't understand why. The average lifespan for a woman on this island, 90 years old. 90 years old. Men, 84. So you've got women outliving men on this island by an average of 6 years. That's pretty cool. Japan's Ministry of Health, Labor, and Welfare reports all of this. This is part of the public record. Additionally, elderly people on the island tend to be less likely to develop diseases, right? Heart disease doesn't happen on this island. Strokes don't happen. Cancer doesn't happen. So it seems like they've figured out a way to live and to become immortal, right? To live a very, very long and happy life. When you, and I'm sure you're going to discuss this in just a second, it is about diet and it is about that. But there's one thing that has always stood out to me. They don't eat until they're full. They don't. No, just eat. Just eat, we only go to 80%, says the 90-year-old woman. And you know what? You need to really listen to what she's saying. And fish and rice, right? Fish, other things. And science has gone and tried to study what is actually going on here. Is it the water? And I'm not, being cavalier or making fun of things. Is it the water? Is it the air? Is it the climate? Is there something going on with the food that is grown locally on the island? Is it a combination of everything? Don't know. but they live very healthy, very long, very happy lives.
And on average, about 5 to 11 years more than in the United States. Now, this practice, Jimmy, that you mentioned is called hara hachibu, and it's eating until you're about 80% full. And
Right.
this has become a benchmark for both healthcare providers and those wishing to invest in their well-being. And it's really all about preventing them from overeating, putting extra carbs in their body that they simply do not need or cannot burn off in a certain period of time. And it also states that it makes you not only feel better physically, but also emotionally as well, because we are aware that food does affect our emotions. When we're stressed, when we're sad, when we're super happy, we eat certain foods or we indulge or we don't at all eat any type of food depending on our emotions. But this location, it reminded me of another lake, and the name escapes me. And I believe it was in Italy, where it's like the healing waters. If you have
Mhm.
any kind of ailments, you enter these waters. Is it in Italy or is it in Greece?
We've talked about it. We talked about it.
I know, and it's escaping me, but we've seen a location similar to this one that we're talking about taking place in Japan. So, is it the water, Jimmy, like you had stated? Is it the environment? Is it just the lifestyle that they're living, or is it all of the above? And I think at this point, because research has been done on why these people are living longer than expected, how this is happening. And I think that when we look at this diet, and I'm gonna very briefly talk about this. I took an alternative medicine class in university, and I was so pumped. I thought we were gonna learn about like acupuncture and all of these like vitamins and pills to take to overcome certain illnesses, but the majority of the class was actually related to diet. And one particular diet that has the most health benefits that also helps, in a sense, attempt dementia and things like this dealing with the brain is a Mediterranean diet. Things that have good fats, things like fish, avocados, olive oil, and even things like rice as well. Well, these people on this island are eating exactly that, being a part and consuming this Mediterranean diet.
Mhm.
Could that also be a reason to why they're living longer?
Mhm.
I think it's absolutely possible with the scientific research that has been done on that.
And those, except for avocados, all my favorite things to eat. Right. And so, and I'm not, I just enjoy. So that's not really a diet if you enjoy eating it. Right. You know what I mean? Because diets are torture. So they're happy, number one. But number two, that 80% thing, there is actually a lot to be said about this. So they've gone in and did a bunch of research. And when you spread this over a lifetime, eating 80% of what your body needs, right, means that your body is always burning a little bit of extra calories than it's intaking to get through the day, right? To live. So that's the issue here in the United States, is that we eat about 1,000 times more than we need every
Yeah, I
single
know.
day,
It's so
right? And therefore, right? So when you spread that out, that 80%, where your body is always just using a bit more than it's taking in, has tremendous health benefits. And it's restoring cells, and things are always working inside of you. That when you're going the opposite direction, your body is always all the time, as opposed to using everything up, using everything up, using everything up, and then going back and dipping in to what is left, and it's constantly in rejuvenation. And that's the science part of this. I'm very fascinated with that. That 80% number that they've developed this naturally over time. Talking about the residents there, right? This is what they do. They've developed it. Therefore, they are acclimated to it. And then what do you have? You're living 10 years longer than everybody else on the planet. 10 happier years, 10 healthy years, right? Yeah, think about that. I think it's just totally awesome. And then we have the other immortal island, where I'm going to take things to 25. Right. Mount Penglay. Are you familiar with that, Christina?
No, tell it to me.
This is where this is Christina has me on the show as her assistant for these moments of greatness where I bring in 3 minutes at the end of the show.
You betcha.
That's right. From the medieval periods onwards in Japan, Mount Penglai is believed by the Japanese people to be located in Japan. Right now, are we talking about something mythological or is it real? Let's answer that. Where Zufu and Yang Guifei arrived and eventually decided to stay there for the rest of their lives. Okay. In the Japanese version of the myth, because there's a Chinese version of this too as well. We're talking about the Japanese version of Immortal Island. One of these people, Horai, is not free from sorrow or death, and the winters are bitterly cold. Hearn's conception, the writer that wrote about this, of Horai holds that there are no magical fruits that cure disease, grant eternal youth, or raise the dead, and no rice bowls or wine glasses that never become empty. Oh no, rather, his incarnation of the myth of Horai focuses more on the atmosphere of the place, which is said to be made of, are you ready? What did we just discuss with Okinawa, right? Okay, so just listen. It's the air. It's the quintillions of souls that live on the island. Breathing in these souls is said to grant one all of the perceptions and knowledge of these ancient souls. The Japanese version also holds that the people of Horai are small fairies who have no knowledge of great evil, and therefore their hearts never grow old. Now, as it turns out, I mean, this is a real place. So, is it the rice? Is it the fish? Is it the 80%? You know what I mean? Or is it that they're breathing in quintillions of souls and their hearts are just blessed? Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
It sounds like murder.
And it's how do you turn that around? How do you turn around such a beautiful story? It's just a beautiful story. You know, fairies that don't know what evil is, and they're
So
just,
you inhale them.
so you inhale them. Yeah, you know, you can buy some of that on Sunset Boulevard. Sell little bags of it.
Well, I want to cover one more case before we end today's show, and that is the vending machine killer.
Yeah. Let's go. Let's go.
All right.
We only have a little time. If I get started on this, but go ahead, Christina.
All right. I'm sharing my screen here. We will make this short and sweet, but the vending machine killer performed his attacks with intelligence. The person devised a simple yet highly effective method of murder that kept him from raising suspicions while breaking his way into the machines across the country to taint beverage bottles. The killer had the perfect circumstances already at his disposal. One of the Japanese healthy drink companies was running a buy one get one promotion to boost sales. Lucky customers would randomly get a second bottle of Orion Min C from vending machines as a kind of marketing gimmick. So buying one bottle and getting two didn't seem very odd. Here's where it gets weird. In April of 1985, this vending machine killer killed at least 10 and leaving over 30 others in seriously bad shape, and the poisoning seemed to have come in two distinct waves. The toxin that was in this drink, supposedly what people were getting their second drink free, it was laced with an herbicide that had a torturous kick to it. This herbicide, when ingested, it tears the body up over days or weeks. And according to ClinMed International Library, the poison is filtered through the kidneys, which quickly destroys the victim's ability to remove it from the system shortly after circulation begins. It can then cause the organs to shut down one by one. But the real killer is in the lungs. This herbicide gravitates to oxygen saturation. So the lungs are the primary target. And this is where it causes really all of the issues to the point where 10 people died and 30 were hospitalized. When this information went out, Japan was in a total frenzy. The police and investigators were also uncertain of this motive. Why was this person doing this to random people? It wasn't anyone specific, it was anyone that was lucky or unlucky enough to get that free drink. The poisoned beverages were placed in a variety of locations with no apparent connection between them. Unfortunately, due to the lack of evidence, the case eventually went cold and the killer was never found. In 2010, Japan abolished the status of limitations for the murder. And this means that if the killer's ever identified, he or she can still be prosecuted for their crimes. But this took place in 1985, and there have been no leads whatsoever.
The craziest case, right? Where you have the perfect poison. When you think about this, right? Where you're ingesting, where your kidneys are there to filter, right? Well, let's knock the kidney out first. So your body has no defenses at all. And then this just washes through your system, taking out organ after organ after organ after organ and shutting everything down. Um, the killer was able to. I don't know about you, Christina, but I have a fear, and I do this all the time. Okay, if I open up something and it doesn't go, I throw it away. I do it all the time.
I feel you.
I do it. I do it. It just doesn't matter, right? Some glass bottle, coffee drink, fruit drink, something, right? And if it doesn't go, I don't even think twice. I just throw it away. I'm totally paranoid about that stuff. A can with the pot, whatever. If it doesn't go, right, I throw it away, and I just don't play around. The killer got around that. So, my paranoia, right? And inside of my warm beanie head, right? My paranoia, I open something up and I get it, and then I drink it. And that's what happened here. He was able to do that, to get around. It's like one of the things that is sacred is okay, we're cool. Right? Do you understand what I'm saying? He got
Yeah.
away with that. And in the United States, in the 70s, we had the same situation happen with Tylenol. And so back then we didn't have tamper resistant lids because of the Tylenol murders that happened here in the United States. That's when all of the tamper resistant laws came in to play. So we have that today, right? But back then in the 70s, we didn't. So in Chicago, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. In Chicago, somebody dies, right? Just dies. Nobody knows. And in the house, on the countertop in the kitchen, was a bottle of Tylenol. Nobody suspected that. It's Tylenol, right? So they were trying, how, and then somebody else dies. Somebody else dies. Somebody else dies. Somebody else is sick. Somebody's going to the hospital, all in Chicago. Then they figured out pretty quickly that somebody was taking the bottles of Tylenol, putting cyanide in the capsules, putting them back in the bottles, and putting them back on the shelves at drugstores around Chicago. All right. I forget how many people died, but it was like 17 or something. Nationwide recall on Tylenol. Think about it. Same thing happened in Japan, by the way. Nationwide, country freaks out, news everywhere. Nobody is buying or taking Tylenol for a very long time. You had to come up with some tamper-proof thing. Here's the deal. Killer never caught. Never caught. Got away with it. The one thing that came out of that, tragedy. So many people died. So many people got sick, going into comas, and things. That the tamper-resistant, tamper-proof packaging. Tina just said, I remember that Jimmy World. But yeah, and I think I was probably 10, 11, 12 years old when all of that went down, and the hysteria, going into supermarkets and drugstores, and all of the medication, all of it's gone, not just Tylenol. Everything was taken off the shelves. Everything. Because if you just open it up, you can open it up right there. And with that one event, tamper seals appeared on everything per federal law. That's absolutely right. Killer never caught. Never caught.
That is insane. And a story that I didn't know about, but it goes to show that one tragic event makes a big difference for the near future. However, it is unfortunate that we have to learn from those really big mistakes or that level of ignorance to see the consequences of that.
It was brutal. And one of the other consequences about it is that pain medication like that, right? Headaches, whatever, cold, whatever it is, that type of pain medication. I've got Tylenol and Advil and Excedrin here at the house. I take it a lot, right? Just imagine that the entire country stopped. The entire country, Christine, the entire country stopped taking it overnight, and that's what that killer did. In doing that, and the people that had to endure pain, whatever it is, and children, whatever, that you would take that medication for. It's an important medication to take. And that's it. They cleared the shelves. You couldn't buy it. You couldn't do anything. And meanwhile, everybody's walking around completely paranoid, and not only not taking the medication because they can't buy it, but not taking the medication because they're scared to take it. Right? Wow. It was nuts. It was a crazy, crazy, crazy time. Killer never caught, just like the vending machine killer in Japan. Never caught.
At the end of the day, the moral is trust no one, trust nothing. You got to hear it. It's so important.
Hey, is that Tina that made me the hat?
Yes, it's this Tina.
Tina, thank you so much. Thank you. Tina, you are just very, very, very special. I hope you notice. I love this thing. I've got other beanies that friends have gotten me. Some really cool people that have gotten me some really cool beanies. They've all been replaced.
Rock on. And it looks good. Jimmy, thank you so much for being on the show today. What's going on today on Fade to Black?
Tonight, Jason Quitt. Okay, I've got a little special announcement for everybody. So tonight, Jason Quitt is here. His new book, which I have just gotten. Tonight, we're going to be discussing this. And like I said, I just got the book. It's getting ready to come out, but there's reasons why I wanted to discuss that tonight on the show. Jason is about to freak out the world. So that is tonight. The book is amazing. But I have a very special Fade to Black tomorrow night. Yes, I have a show on Friday, and Serena DC is going to be here. I am in. She's a filmmaker, television host out of Australia. She's absolutely phenomenal. She's really cool. She's here in the States. So she's going to come by the bunker. We're going to do a special live show tomorrow night. And her new film, which some of you may have seen on Amazon, called CE5, the Experience. I think that's what it's called. It's a huge hit right now. So you may have seen it. That's her movie. And then her next movie, which is the big release, going to be big, which I'm in, comes out in a couple of months. So we're going to be discussing CE5s and her career, her life in media. She's an Emmy nominated, television host. She's phenomenal. Very funny, and she's from you'll see she's got a great personality, but she's from another generation. She's younger, like yourself, where she is leading the charge, and I just love her to death. She's amazing, and so she's in town. She'll be in the bunker tomorrow night. We're going to do a special Fade to Black. So that's it. I'm out of here. Thank you so much, Cristina. Another amazing show. And I'll see everybody tonight on Fade to Black with Jason Quitt.
Thanks, Jimmy. Bye. What an awesome show. Out of all the cases that we covered today, which one was your favorite? We covered some crazy things, some interesting things, and some scary things on today's show. But I think my heart is going to go out to Cat Island. Would I go? In a heartbeat. There is no question there. But also mythology. I love mythology. And I'm coming to realize that I'm really digging Asian mythology. Japanese mythology is pretty darn cool. Jimmy's agreeing with me backstage. I can see him right there. But yeah, the Japanese have some really, really interesting legends and lore that I would love to sink my teeth a little bit more into sometime in the future when time permits. There is no such thing as free time in my life here right now. We did cover a UFO book by a Japanese military official. Once again, it is called A True Record: UFOs, the Self Defense Force Pilots Encountered Closely. It's a book that I'm definitely planning on getting because Jimmy sold it to me. He made it sound so good. I'm like, I have to go ahead and read that. Before you head out, make sure to hit the thumbs up if you enjoyed the video and place a comment. What was your favorite thing that we covered today? It really does help the YouTube algorithm when you comment down below. Tomorrow is Weekly Strange News at 3 p.m. PST, where I'll be covering all the strange news and mysterious headlines from around the world. So you do not want to miss that show. That will be live. That is it for today. I'll see you tomorrow. Be safe and remember, keep your eyes on the skies.